Early in my real estate career, I received a referral of a listing in Lock Haven Hills, Durham, North Carolina. I was excited to get a listing in those days that wasn't a HUD home or a trap house because that was what was mostly selling in those days. The sellers were an older couple whom you would call snowbirds in that they were looking to move further south since their kids were all grown and out of the house. I met the sellers and did my whole listing presentation, went over comps, walked around the house, and recommended stuff the sellers should do to prepare the house to show. The wife wasn't too keen on my recommendation to declutter and limit the amount of art and decorations on the walls. I told them that the house had a lifetime of memories and it showed, and by decluttering, it would present the house better to potential buyers so they can picture themselves living there instead of only seeing how it's currently being lived in. She didn't take my recommendations, but I still listed the house. As I normally do, I hire a professional photographer and schedule the photo shoot. I thought the photos turned out great. However, Mrs. Seller wanted the exterior photos to pop a little more and wanted a reshoot. She was very specific too, in that she wanted pictures of the front of the house to be taken right when the sun comes up so that you could see the bright red front door better. She was really obsessed with their red door. Long story short, we ended up doing 2 reshoots. Back then, because the real estate market was slow and there wasn't much business, the photographer agreed to do the reshoots. I met him both times at the house at 8 a.m., and the red door looked the same in all the pictures, regardless of the time of the day they were taken. So after getting the pictures done and the house on the market, we had a handful of showings in about a month and a half, which was normal back then. We did end up receiving an offer that I thought was good for an initial offer. The house was listed for $185,000, and we received an offer for $175,000. So we were in a good range, I thought. I presented it to the sellers and recommended countering and staying firm at $180,000. Since my market analysis showed that the house was really worth about $180,000 to begin with, it was the sellers that wanted to list it for $185,000. After presenting an offer over the phone, it was like the sellers didn't hear me or were distracted by something. Then Mrs. Seller started going on about how it would have been a better offer if we had better photos and requested another photo shoot. I told her that wasn't going to happen and that the photos were good already, and that since we have an offer on the table, we should at least counter it. They quickly hung up after telling me that they will get back to me later. One day turned to several days without hearing back from them, with my messages and calls going unanswered. All showing requests were being rejected by the sellers, and the buyers ended up rescinding their offer and buying another house. After emailing the sellers that the buyers walked away, I received a response that they would like to terminate the listing agreement, citing that I wasn't fully supportive of their wishes, and they decided that they were no longer interested in selling their house. Since it was my policy that sellers can terminate the listing agreement if they felt that I wasn't holding up my end of the agreement, so I agreed to the termination and removed the listing. I ended up eating the cost of the photo shoot and the 2 reshoots. Several weeks later, I see that the house has been relisted by another realtor, and the kicker is they were using my photos pulled off MLS. I sent a threatening email to the agent and the broker in charge that they do not have permission from me or my photographer to use those photos. The next day, my photos were replaced with new photos that looked like they were taken with a camera phone, and camera phones back then didn't take very good pictures. I then emailed the sellers asking for an explanation of why, after giving me such a hard time with my marketing efforts, they decided to go with another realtor that was using crappy photos. The husband responded that he appreciated my effort, but his wife wanted to use a church friend who got her real estate license all along and apologized for the inconvenience. I believe the house ended up selling for like $170,000 or something like that. So now it's still my policy that sellers, if the house isn't already under contract, can terminate the listing agreement if they feel that I'm not meeting my end of the deal in selling their house. However, I do require my marketing fee and reimbursement of all expenses if the sellers terminate or do not renew the listing.